Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, and each week I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and invite them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. I'm thrilled this week for my special guest, Jonathan. Jonathan, tell everybody who you are and kind of what you do.
First off, Todd, thank you for letting me be part of your story so that I can tell my story. I'll tell you guys about who I am in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and let you know that Todd has inspired me from early on when the Kids Deserve It book. He's been a great resource for me. If I've messaged him, he's responded right away. Helped me with some professional development with some teachers. Todd is an A+ guy. So first and foremost, he's amazing.
Thank
My name
you.
is Jonathan Stovall. I'm the assistant principal at a Dareville school in Logan County, Kentucky. Our population is really only about 350 students, and this is my fourth year in this role. I'm really liking it. But one of the things that I love most is getting to know other people, getting to know their stories. That was one of the main reasons that I reached out to Todd in the first place, is that I love his story, and the kids deserve it, and all of his other publications awesome have definitely inspired me. I'm just happy to be here, Todd.
Well, hey, let's jump right in because I got a lot I want to talk to you about in limited time. So, first of all, anytime I have a conversation with a guest, I always love to start back at the beginning. And that was when you were a kid, what did you dream you were going to be? And does it align at all with what you're doing now?
Most of the time I think that people will say it doesn't really align. They have this big dream. They want to be a professional athlete, or they want to be a police officer or a firefighter. I knew from an early age, this is what I wanted to do. And you look at me and people will see me out and they'll say, "You're a principal? You were a teacher?" Well, I don't have that look, but I knew from the beginning, from probably my fifth or sixth grade year, that I wanted to go into elementary education because I wanted to be somebody that mattered.
Yeah.
I knew right then that I wanted to build relationships that students had somebody else to go out and reach out to, not just their mom, their dad, their grandfather, their aunts, their uncles. It takes a village to raise a child, and I knew that early on when I started my school experience.
I love that. And so, when you knew that you were going to be moving into education, were you always drawn to either elementary or secondary, or did it kind of just fall into place? How'd that work out?
Well, actually, I was drawn into elementary and special ed. I have a heart for students with special needs. And, when you think about it, the way we learn as babies, as even now, we learn by experiencing things. And elementary kids are the epitome of experiencing things. They want hands on, they want to go run, they want to go touch, they want to go do. So, if you know me, I'm a very high energy person, probably a lot like Todd. Some people would say I have ADHD, but I just like to think that's high energy and I don't like to stop. So that's what gravitated me towards the primary, is that, hey, I can match their energy. Even at 37, I can match their energy. So it kind of fell into place.
I love what you shared about the high energy because I can totally relate. Because for those of you who are watching this, you can see that Jonathan's moving around and stuff. And I'm like, that is exactly what I'm doing every time that I'm talking. So for those of you that are listening, just know that Jonathan and I have a lot of movement happening when we talk. But I totally connected with you immediately from that. But, Jonathan, one thing that I want to jump into in this conversation is, you've got a really unique element to your own personal story about just some difficult times that you've been through and some unique challenges that you've had to face. Talk to me about that.
Oh man, Todd, this is one of those things where you don't really advertise yourself very much, but it was definitely a life-changing experience. Let's say August 31st of 2013. I'm a fourth grade teacher. We're almost a month into school year. My friend and I are riding ATVs. We have an ATV accident. I suffer a complete brain bleed. I had to have a craniotomy. With having the craniotomy, of course, they're rushing me to the hospital. And in the hospital, they're starting to prepare people that I might not make it. I might make it. Ends up that, reaching out to Bernadette Tardy, who was my family resource director at the time. She comes in, my family comes in, they're praying for me. And I make it out. I make it out of surgery. This is the funny part, Todd, is that out of surgery, I'm finally coherent. I'm talking to my doctor, and he's judging my mental ability. And I ask him right off the bat, when can I go teach? First of all, you come out of surgery 2 hours ago. I said, when can I go teach? He said, well, you may not ever teach again. You may not, may not walk the same. You may not talk the same. And I remember looking at him, Todd, and telling him, I was put here to teach.
Right.
I will teach again. I won't get really deep with you because it's a long story. I'm going to keep it shorter. But my prognosis was 5 years of rehabilitation, 1 year of, in hospital or in a rehab center. Because I'm not in control and I know who is in control of my healing, within a month or a month and a half, I was back at school teaching. Staples still in my head. You can actually see plates, but Staples still in my head. And I'm back in the classroom. My student teacher from the semester before had took over for me. So my kids had missed nothing. She was awesome. The transition was great. I get back, I'm teaching again. And I don't know, I always had a fire for education. But I think this experience of knowing that life is short and that these relationships matter really lit another fire underneath me. So when I get back to teaching and I'm there, I told you that my prognosis was 5 years to be clear. Never had a seizure, never
Wow.
had a stroke, never had anything, for a complete craniotomy with 3 massive concussions that eventually disappeared. The doctor says he don't know where they went. I know where they went. But I'm back teaching, and I decided, man, I want to do something more than just classroom. Yes, this is great. We're building relationships, but we started doing reach out with boys. And boys, the school that I taught at, Todd, and you guys probably won't understand, but it's Parker Bennett Curry Elementary in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It is literally right in the middle of the projects. So me and a young man that actually is running the program now, Tyrion Clark, are doing the Boys to Men initiative doing that statewide. We started that a long time ago. And when I took this role, he took over with it and he's ran with it.
I love that.
But the experience, Todd, of, hey, life is short. So you got to make the most out of it. And the relationships that you build is what helps me to get through it.
Yeah.
One story, and then I'll let you go to the next one. So, of course, that first month I'm having hard days. I'm at home, my family's taking care of me, but they got to go to work. So I'm having a hard day. One especially hard day. I hadn't reached out to anybody. My iPhone rings. I answer, it's an unknown number. It's FaceTime. It's a student that I had 2 years ago.
Huh.
Her sister, who I had that year, and her brother that I would end up having the next year. And the first thing that she says is, you can't go. And I said, what do you mean? And she's crying. So I start crying. She said, you can't go. You can't go. Kaya and Kobe have to have you. You can't go. And you talk about motivation.
Yeah.
Your own children, yeah, that's motivation. But when you have somebody else's children relying on you and saying, it's not time yet. You got to come back and do what you were supposed to do.
I love those little stories and those reminders, and they always seem to come at just the right time. Thinking about your own experience, every traumatic brain injury has some kind, every path is different. Everybody has different things they go through. Have you been able to tell any residual effects at all from going through that, or do you even remember it happening too? I'd love to know that too.
I actually do not remember it happening. I don't remember anything up until I learned that the doctors put an alarm on my bed because I was trying to escape the hospital. So I literally actually made it out of the rehab center.
Wow.
But anyway, my residual effects, I want to tell you none. I want to tell you that I have none. But honestly, people tell you that my energy levels even picked up. And that, I may forget some things every now and then, but my parents will tell you that's nothing new. He did that as a kid. But, my process of going through this is just constantly reminding myself that today is today. Tomorrow's not promised. So let me give everybody everything I have today. My family, the kids, the staff, because, to quote some of you, kids deserve it. Right. So, I had somebody ask me the other day, they said, what do you do when you have a hard day? So I smile. They said, why? I said, well, number one, I'm alive. And if you've been through what I've been through, being alive is happy. But number two is there's a kid that needs that smile. You don't know who it is. They may not ever tell you, but a kid that you interact with that day needs that smile. And when they see that, you might not ever know, but you change their day.
And I love that. And that has been such a mantra that I've had too, because I know that that's something for me to keep focused on and for me to keep working on that's outside of myself. because I think that's where difficult days can even get even more difficult, is when you're just focused on you and what you're going through and your pain. And but I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that too and ask, even the best of us with the best intentions still have those days where it's like, why am I doing this job? Or am I the right person? Or, that doubt begins to creep in, or that comparison, or the emotions that are out of check. And so when you get into those really difficult days, what do you do to kind of make sure that it doesn't become all consuming?
There's actually a few things, because you're right. We all go through those days where I'm not good enough. Why haven't I achieved this yet? I've been working so hard, or am I really made to do this? Even though going through things I've went through, you would think, okay, he's got the confidence. No, there are days that you're like, okay, is this it? Like, am I making a difference? There's a couple of things that I do. One is that I'll close the door and it'll just be me. It'll be me and my prayers. Let me talk. Let me hear from you. Let me hear from God. You talk to me and tell me where I'm at. Am I going the right way? And then I got to listen. I can't just talk. I got to listen. One of my other things that I like to do is, and this is my time with just me too, is that I'll go exercise, to go get a run in, or to go do something that's physically demanding. It's rewarding. And then the last thing that I do, which interacts with people that I care about, and that's the relationship part, is that I grew up in a household with a great mother and a great father and great grandparents. My uncle was very vital in my life as well. I grew up in a house where I better learn how to change my oil. I better learn how to change my tire. I better learn how to change the brakes. I'm actually a licensed electrician. So I better learn all of these things. So if I'm struggling, I go to my family. I go to my friends that I have those good relationships with, and we work with our hands. Because when you see something, Todd, and I know you can relate to this with a book, is you have a beginning and you're writing or you're working, you're like, okay, am I going to get there? But with a product, you see the ending and you're like, okay, if I can do this, I can go back and make a difference in these kids' life. But I think the biggest point, the part of it for me, is to sit back, reflect, and go, okay, it might not be what you expected it to be, but it was still amazing.
Well, and you said something really, really interesting there that I want to make sure people heard, is that, having that end product from your work is where you feel like what you did had a purpose. And I think that's where that whole importance of, for some people, making a list and checking off things as they do it, or having a gratitude journal, or being able to build something with your hands or complete something, those kind of elements, those struggles are worth it, because at the end you have that, look what I did, look what I finished, look what I completed. Okay, now I think I can go try something else or go try the next thing. And so I love that you brought that up as well. And the program, I want to go back to something else you mentioned too earlier, the program that you're doing with boys, or that you've done with the boys, that another gentleman has now taken over. And so when did you kind of have the urge to want to grow up young men like that, instead of just your stereotypical working in the classroom, doing the education side, the building relationships? When did you want to jump into that too?
Well, first off, let me give props where they're due, because Tyrion Clark is running with it. So if he hears this, and I'm going to tweet it, Tyrion, you're running with it. You're doing amazing things, dude. But in 2011, myself and another gentleman, an older gentleman from the Parker Bennett Curry community, Danny Carruthers, and actually Corey Tardy, Bernadette Tardy's husband, we saw that these students were being raised by their mothers, their grandmothers. They didn't have a dad in the house. And if they did, he's working 2 and 3 jobs to try to provide. He's doing the best he can. He's not a deadbeat dad. He's just working hard. So what can we do to pour into others? And I like to use the bucket analogy, is that we can't fill our own bucket up, but we can fill other people's bucket up, and they can fill ours up. So by pouring into these boys is how it started. And actually, it didn't start with the whole Boys to Men program that Mr. Clark is running with now. It actually started, Todd, as just, hey, let's set behavior expectations. These are the things that we expect with your behavior. These are the things we expect with your grades. And when you get these, we'll do lock-ins. So we were doing lock-ins at night, and we were having 50 and 60 boys from a K-5 school. And Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green was sending their professors to do experiments. And we're with Rico Tyler looking through his telescopes at the moon. and you see the light on in these kids' eyes that they've never got to experience these things, to get them outside of their comfort zone, to get them outside of what they're used to. And that's when it grew into, okay, this is good. Their behavior is improving, but how can we make it more intrinsic? So we started with the tie. You know, in the business world, a man that's dressed in a tie and a suit, you're going to immediately think, okay, he's got some status. He might really not, but
Right.
dressed like he does. So you dress to impress. It started with, okay, boys, if you meet these certain expectations throughout the week, on Fridays, you can wear your tie and you can eat on the stage with Mr. Stovall. When Mr. Clark got there, with Mr. Clark, Mr. Carruthers. And it even grew so much, Todd, that local businesses, Mariah's, Old Stone, the golf course, were feeding us and helping us teach etiquette, not just feeding us, but we're going in our shirts and our ties, and we're learning how to talk to each other and how to hold our fork. I mean, so from there, okay, now Mr. Clark comes in. He just got out of college. He's got a lot more energy than me. I'm already in my 30s. He's in his 20s. He's like, hey, let's do this at other schools. Dude, all right, let's try. First year we tried. I was still at Parker Bennett. But when I took this job, as soon as I took this job, he ran with this. And now it is in schools all over the state of Kentucky, all because of the same things that you have and that we're talking about is passion. He's got a desire to help kids. We had a desire to help kids. You know, one of the best compliments that he ever given me one time is that I'm talking about this program. Like, man, I wish I was still there, so I'm involved. He said, actually, I wish you were too. But one of the best things about leading is that you're not always leading, but that you inspire somebody else.
Yeah.
You give somebody else that inspiration.
You know, I love that so much. And what you just said there reminded me of something. My favorite principal that I ever worked under, she told me, because I'd mentioned a potential job and I was like, you know what, do I go for it? And she said, if I am doing my job as your principal, I am making you the most marketable teacher out here. And because I want you to go and lead and go inspire others, I don't want to just keep you here all for myself. And that really hit me to remember as leadership that we don't just want to build a great team and then keep them all to us. Our goal is to spread out where those people are going out and impact so many others. So I love that you shared that story. Well, Jonathan, in closing out this conversation, one question that I always love to end on is, you know, I believe as people, there's so much that we hold true to who we are, that we always want to impress upon others. And so for anybody listening or watching today, if they were to walk away with one thing, what would your one thing be for them?
Love. Love, 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 love. Because it doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is, what color you are, whether you're male, whether you're female, what religious beliefs you have, what anything. Love. Love one another and do for one another. So one of the things that you would get from me is that servant mentality, is that I'm going to love you wherever you're at, and I'm going to meet you wherever you're at. I'll probably make you laugh, Todd, is that I'm not afraid to tell my kids I love them. Kids at school, you'll have a kindergartner, hey, I love you. I see one of my special needs students every day. I yell his name, get on my knees, tell him I love him. He runs to me. One of the things that I like to say, and I actually took this from another principal, is that Mr. Stovall loves you. If you don't hear it again, I love you. We love you. So the one thing you'll get from me is love.
I love that. Well, Jonathan, I was so excited when we got this scheduled to have this conversation today. So thank you for coming and spending some time with me and telling some of your story.
Todd, thank you. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. I know that I'll speak with you more. Those of you that are new to Todd, I'm telling you, follow him, listen to him. The man is awesome. He's not just, you know, a social media presence. No joke. This man is a mentor, been a mentor to me and an inspiration to me. So thank you, Todd.
Hey, that means a ton, man. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out all the past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Jonathan has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story